Alrighty, we have two outlets in this box here. They're all loose and the wiring is kind of old. Okay, so we'll first take our cover off the box here and see what we have. So we'll go downstairs and shut the breaker off. Alrighty, so we'll start unhooking our neutrals here. I'll just clip them to make it a lot easier. I'll make sure this is off just to be sure. So we'll clip off our white wires here. So this one is neutral. We have neutrals over here. Okay, so this side.
Shut up, Dave.
Hi, it's me. How you doing?
Shut up, Dave. What are you doing?
Changing the outlets up here in Marcus's. And this is our other neutral here. What are you working on?
Huh?
What are you doing?
I went to clean that fucking garment up.
These are our neutral wires. And we're going to use some ideal lever connectors to make cooking this up a lot easier. So what you do is you just pop these little levers back. Put our conductor in. Make sure we see our copper up at the top. We'll click it down. And we'll do the same with our other white wire here. So we got to get up in all the way there. Push it down. Now look, make sure our copper is coming up to the top, which it is. And I'll look over on this side, make sure our insulation is not in the way there. You can't. You don't get upset. What?
You smell funny.
Oh. I don't hear you laughing.
That's because it's a smell.
Right, but...
That's funny.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'll clip our tail here to go to our outlet. Oh, we're calling birds. And we'll get our other tail. Strip with our 14 gauge hole. But you know what? You know how nice it is to forget your knife? It's so wonderful. I love forgetting things. So I'm just gonna, I got a score there, and I enjoy forgetting things and not having them. So I'm just gonna do a hack job and just cut the insulation off like this. Just cut it off. Enjoy not having my knife. Enjoy forgetting it. Enjoy not being able to. I just cut the insulation off without cutting the copper. Just cut it. Well, it's working. Just have to learn to enjoy forgetting things and doing things the hard way. Just learn to enjoy it. Don't let frustration get the best of you, because it's not going to help you. Hey, I got all the insulation off without a problem. And I'll strip my end here. Go around the screw on the outlet. Strip with our 14 gauge hole. So actually it worked out better not having the knife, because I didn't have to do anything strenuous to get the insulation off of there. Okay, I got all that insulation off, so it's done right. So we'll make our little curve here. We'll go into our other hole here. We'll lift up our lever. Make sure it's in all the way. Snap it down. I'll look at the end here, make sure my copper is all up at the top of our connector here. And none of our insulation is pinched anywhere in there. So there's our neutrals. So now we'll get our black wires. Wow, look at the sloppy work they did on this one here. I'll cut it off short. And I'll show you how sloppy connection they did. Hooking this wire around that screw. That's was done long before. I want to make sure our wires are all nice and straight before I put them in. One is just a little bit too long here, so I'm going to clip a little off of it here. Again, we'll just pop our levers open here. And I'll just go, make sure our frays are back out of the way here. Put one in. I'll get two. Push it up all the way, snap it down. I'll look at the top here, make sure copper is coming up to the top, which it is. And now I'll strip our black wire. So this is going to be the end to go into our lever connector here. And I'll cut a score here. And here to go around the screw on our outlet. So I'll just clip very carefully down the side here just to cut the insulation off. This turned out to be easier than having to use the knife because I don't have to struggle with anything. I got all my insulation off the piece we're going to wrap around our loop, around the screw, and I'll strip this end hook to the screw on the other outlet. So we'll put our black wire into this third connector here. So I'll push in, snap that other lever up, I'll just look, make sure all our copper is up at the top, which it is. So we have to get our ground wire to our green screw here in the back. So we have some bare copper wire for our ground. So I'm taking care of a luxury apartment complex here and putting in new outlets for the landlord. He has a very good reputation around town for maintaining his buildings and taking care of his tenants, so I'm glad to do this stuff for him and help him out. Okay, so get this in the back here. We got our loop. We made it the direction the screw is going to turn here. Get around that screw in the back there. So we found our outlet to the box. Because the armored cable is acting as a ground going back to the breaker box. Make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, now we can get our wires folded back into our box here. We're using some Eaton wiring devices, and if you look closely, they're made here in the country I was born in. That's a nice thing to see. Opening the box with one hand. My #1 square. We're going to use a #1 square screwdriver for our screws because they're meant for #1s rather than the Phillips, because you'll just strip up your Phillips screwdrivers. So I just hope our plaster ears are gonna, well, if they're not, they're not. We're not gonna get upset. We're not gonna carry on about it. If I have to put some spacers behind it, that's what I'll do. So we'll make a loop in our ground wire here to go around to our first outlet. Make sure it's tight. So there's our ground wire. it's tight. Now our insulation is a little long here, so I'm going to have to see if I can push that down a little bit. Got it a little bit. There we go, we got it down to where we want it. Okay, so we can flip this down and we'll get our black wire over here onto our brass terminal. I want to keep the ground wire down at the bottom here. I don't really like that, but you know what? I'm going to have to take it apart. There it is, that's what I want. Now I can still pull that down a little bit more. Make sure it's tight. I'm going to try to pull that insulation down a little bit more on this black wire. Here we go, we got it down far enough now. Okay, so we can bring our black and whites over to our second outlet here. And we'll keep our ground wire down at the bottom here. Ground wires down at the bottom. Now hook up our last outlet here. So we'll just close the screws we're not going to be using here. So here in the country I was born in, your black wire goes on the brass colored screw, which is the narrow slot over here. Your white wire goes on the silver screw, which is the wider slot here. And the bare or the green wire goes on this ground screw. Here in the country I was born in, we use a 14 American wire gauge on 15 amps, 12 American wire gauge on 20 amps. Black is live, red and blue can also be live, and white is neutral. However, you may find white live on a 120 volt circuit for a switch loop or on a 240 volt circuit where the appliance does not require a neutral. So we'll hook this second outlet up. Our wires are just a little longer here because we had to push them down some to make sure it's nice and tight and have a good connection like that. Flip it around. We'll keep our ground wire going down across the bottom here. Make sure it's nice and tight. I'll push this in, make sure our ground wire stays at the bottom. So I'm going to run downstairs and see if I can find some shims to put behind this. Alrighty, so we got some nuts here we'll shim our outlet out with. go. There we go, all tightened down nice and snug and flush with the wall. And I'll do this one. Okay, we got it all nice and flush and tight to the wall, but we're going to have to adjust it to put our cover back on here. See if it lines up. So we got to move this one over some. Just loosen it up a little bit. We'll just push it over a little bit. There it is. We got it over some. Let's see if that's good there. Yep, that's got to go over this a bit more. Well, if I can't, I can't. I won't get upset. one over a little bit. One, two, three, four. I'm going to push my ground wires down, make sure they're down away from everything. Let's see if our cover is going to line up. Yes, it is. I'm going to just grab my light. Everything all looks good, so we can stick our cover back on now. Well, I gotta push this one over a little on top. There it goes. Alrighty, so that is how to replace broken, worn out outlets here in the country I was born in. Peace. Thanks for watching.